Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your NASCAR betting and DFS home. That is Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. We are here to recap all that was the Crayon 301 and get you set for the highpoint.com 400 as NASCAR goes to Pocono, aka the tricky triangle. Got to get that worked in the first 30 seconds or so. Brian, how's it going?
I'm going great, man. Coming off of a pretty successful week, both DFS and betting. Got to say, I was pretty pissed off about one result, which we'll get into when we talk about our betting cards. But overall, I've seen some negative comments about the racing that we saw at New Hampshire, probably because Martin Truex Jr. was in a level of his own, like he was a cheat code. But I thought the race was awesome. The racing in general was really good. I felt like the battles for other positions and even for the lead, for that matter, the stress of who was going to be on the right tire strategy. Was there going to be a caution when guys were pitting? I think added to the excitement of the race, and I'm ecstatic about coming into Pocono. And I know I've played it safe these last few weeks, but I have a good feeling I might overexpose myself this weekend.
This is not going to end well for Brian. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Truex was great. It was like Sonoma all over again. It was a fun race. Obviously, it stunk for everybody that had to work or whatever on Monday that couldn't watch it, but I was watching at my desk. I know you were watching on your way back from Vegas.
I watched it in the car while driving home from Vegas, so no excuses for people that work, especially in office jobs. You get the NCAA March Madness button, and you can just hide it.
Yeah. Awesome to we had a decent week. Some good results for sure. Obviously, there was some results that might have been a little bit better, but it clearly felt like Truex was the best car. The question I had, and I was talking on Twitter a little bit with SC, who's usually in the NASCAR betting preview, Twitter spaces and different stuff. Who do you think had the second best car on Monday at New Hampshire?
I think it was unquestionably Christopher Bell. It was just the fact that he had so many pit road. You can't even call them mistakes. You can call them bad decisions. They made so many questionable calls. I mean, the car was extremely fast, and I almost feel like had they run this race in a vacuum and it was based on pure long run speed, I think Christopher Bell probably outruns Martin Truex Jr. because you saw that early on when we got extended periods. It seemed like Bell's car fell off a little bit less than Truex, so I got to give it to him.
Yeah, I think that was my answer. And then I said Kyle Larson was the second best driver. I think Larson was incredible on Monday. Obviously, his car didn't quite have the speed, but for him to consistently put his car near the front was very, very impressive. Obviously, Kyle Larson's an incredible driver, so there's no reason to think anything else. But sometimes those weeks don't work, and I know there's been a lot of up and down for him. For him to look that good that consistently, it was really good to see. And of course, Christopher Bell and your guy Ryan Blaney, just so many little things that you just can't have happen, and they just at some point it's your fault. It's not a fluke. It's not what I mean? It's a systematic issue for the whole team.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because Blaney's pit penalty came about because they were trying to get out before everyone else by only taking 2 tires and fuel. And he literally tried to run over the fuel line, it was actually, I think it was the gun compressor hose. He didn't allow the tire changer to get back around the car. And to me, that just goes to probably being a little bit unprepared for this situation. You would have thought that had they known they were going to do this, that's something that they practice when they're practicing pit stops. Make the tire changer stay on the right side of the car while the driver drives over the hose instead of trying to run back and both going at the same time.
Well, you can't drive over the hose. That's why you got a penalty. So they have to bring it around. It was just Blaney being too anxious and too fired up. And I get it. He's trying to, take advantage of the speed. But yeah, he needs to be a little more patient. There's somebody there that tells him when to go. And so I don't know if they told him when to go or he just pushed the gas thinking he was good and the other guy was over it. But clearly there was an issue. So yeah, I mean, but it's always something. It's, get your bingo card out and figure out what Blaney's pit crew is going to do wrong this week. Leave a wedge wrench in, who knows? Tire rolling down the pit lane, all the fun stuff. So, but let's recap our DraftKings lineup, and then obviously get set. So, I had a couple outrights. Obviously, we did not hit them. But overall, a solid week. I think we're both in the green, which is good. Brad K did not get there. Kevin Harvick did not get there. You know who got to the top 10 though? Chase Briscoe, top 10. There was a point where I thought maybe he was going to get a top 5. Obviously, he couldn't do that, but he was able to hold on to the top 10. Truex over Seabell was probably our best bet. We went 4-0 on. Speaking of best bets, we went 4-0 on best bets, which is a great sign. Seeing the board pretty well. Briscoe top 4. Obviously, that didn't hit. Felt like it might.
He was much better than what people probably anticipated post practice and qualifying, though. I'll give you that.
And I think I want to use some of that thinking as we go into this week, because there's obviously current form, which is important. But if we have low expectations of a guy in certain weeks, and then they step into a place where we think this is actually a good setup, a good opportunity, a good whatever for them, maybe we should not penalize them so much for recent form when we think there is a good present, opportunity for them to succeed. And obviously SHR from an overall perspective had a great day. Yes. Almirola was incredible. I bet him top 4. I thought he was doing everything he needed to do. And of course, what happens? The tire gets sideways, and I'm still not exactly sure what happened, but my God, that car was great. Almirola was doing exactly what we thought he could do, and it still wasn't good enough.
I'm starting to come around and fully understand the fact that why some guys' numbers are posted at they are. And I feel like it's the built-in possibility of them ruining the race by nobody's fault but their own. A guy like Almirola, a guy like Blaney, a guy like Christopher Bell, a guy like Tyler Reddick, it's because these good drivers that know how to win races, they're normally the ones that are at the top of the odds board because they don't make these type of mistakes.
Well, when you're consistently running at the top of the board, you get priced that way accordingly, right? You know what to do. You're comfortable there. You're not stressing. You're not anxious to get out because you want to get another win. All those things. So overall, pretty solid week. Brad K over Bubba, and Brad K top 10. Both were pretty easy. So back in the green for the recent form, which is really nice. Look at that. I'm up 7 units. You're up 10 units, almost a lot, basically 11. So that doesn't suck. As you had Reddick and Blaney as outrights.
And I still feel good about the numbers that we got on the outrights.
And the Blaney top 10, should have never been a doubt. That should have been a top 10 no matter what. And maybe that pushes Briscoe out and whatever. But Blaney was a top 5 car 80% of the day. So that was really frustrating. Once again, Truex over Bell, that worked out. Byron over Elliott, I'm not really sure because average ass Elliott was very average.
Byron was good early on, and then he kind of faded towards the end. So I don't know. I was probably on the wrong side.
There's a reason why he hasn't been able to figure out New Hampshire, which is kind of wild. And then your Bubba top 10, that was a nice call. So, like I said, back in the green for both of us on the recent form. I'm almost out of that hole. You're working on digging yourself out for the season long, but still lots of racing to go. Over on DraftKings, we had a pretty successful week. Obviously, we talked about kind of our thoughts and kind of how it may pan out, and we built lineups to have Truex dominate. And when he dominates the way he does, he's the guy you need. So he was obviously great. Harvick was great, getting a top 5 after starting 13th. Chastain was kind of up and down, almost got a top 20. Ty Gibbs was really annoying, but I think because so many people are on him, it ended up working out. Obviously, Briscoe pulled out a top 10. That was nice. And then Cole Custer, I think, was better than the result shows. Obviously, he had an accident, but he looked decent. I think, he doesn't probably get in the top 20, but I think if he moves up 10 spots or so, that's a decent day. And this is a similar take where I went Truex with Hamlin, Chastain, Bowman, LaJoy, who was not good, and then Cole Custer. So, and then I built one other one with Seabell in case he was the dominator, similar to what we had, but obviously he had a rough day and ended up crashing out at the end. So overall made some money. So I'm not going to complain. Pretty decent. So let's go to the odds board for this week and let's talk about it. There's a lot of interesting things to unpack. There's a lot of ways to attack this board. Obviously, Pocono's kind of its own thing. So like some people have talked about maybe some Phoenix, some Auto Club, some Michigan, but it's all so different that it's really hard to build it in. Obviously, the speed package that they used at Michigan kind of fits well with what we're going to see this week. But I think the best comp, and that's what a lot of people talked about on the betting preview, is just 2022 at this track, because that's going to give us the best results. But there's some guys that popped in that week that haven't been running well, aka Ross Chastain. I guess overall, before we dive into individual numbers, how are you thinking about this week and how you're, kind of planning your betting card?
Yeah, so this is something I've kind of been struggling with over the last couple of days as I've been looking at lines. And obviously, you want to go back and you want to look at track specific form and what they've done historically here. But I almost feel like 2023 is racing so much differently than what we saw last year in the first year of the next gen car that I could definitely be in the wrong here. I mean, I'm not a tech specialist by any means, and I know absolutely nothing about cars outside of.
We're never going to pretend to be car guys. We're numbers guys.
Yeah, so,
we use information, but we also know how to listen to the smart people and get information that way too.
Yeah, so I feel like for me, I'm almost weighing this season's performance overall at the kind of faster, like larger tracks, like tracks where speed is really important, evenly with what we saw at Pocono last year. So I mean, like, I'm not completely fading guys that are struggling this season who performed well last year. Like, I think they fall somewhere in the middle, but I'm definitely looking at dudes that are performing good at these types of tracks. And especially as we're talking here on Wednesday evening, when you're looking at pre-qualifying numbers and I'm shopping for value, I'm really looking at guys that have qualified well at those high speed tracks to see if there's any sort of potential value I can get pre-qualifying here.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Wormy was talking about how it'd be really nice if we had Michigan before this race, so we could use that as kind of a benchmarker, but unfortunately we won't be able to, but we can figure some stuff out. So Martin Truex is your favorite, obviously won on a variety of courses this year. This is another place where he has had some decent history. It's been kind of up and down, but he's just been so fast and so good all year long. And there was chances. I think last year he had some bad luck in terms of getting a win or two. And it seems like it's completely flipped this year. And it's kind of balancing out. So interesting to see, but he's obviously up at your front. And then Denny Hamlin, 4.5, 5.5 to 1. Kyle Busch, as long as 6 to 1. I know there was some 7s floating around in market. If you play your cards right, you might be able to still snag one, but his number has moved a little bit. Kyle Larson, 6.5, 7. I think as long as 7.5. And then William Byron finishes off the guys inside 10 to 1. So I guess of this chunk of the board, who's jumping out? Where is their potential value and who's interesting to you?
I mean, this is going to be the first time I've said this in quite some time, but I almost feel like when you're looking at the guys under 10 to 1, I think the value here pre-qualifying is probably Kyle Larson. I mean, you don't normally see this number drop this high He's traditionally qualified extremely well here. I mean, when you look at the last 3 races, you're talking about a guy that put it on pole the first race of 2021, and then he started last year 4th. You know the type of speed that this team has brought at the higher speed 1.5s this year. So, like, obviously, again, I'll go back to this. I don't know how well that's going to translate to Pocono, but Larson is a guy for me who could pop in practice and qualifying. And if he puts it on the front row, like you're looking at a 5-1 or a 4.5-1.
Yeah.
And when you look at Truex and Denny, I mean, where is their number going to go unless they're like a legit 2 to 3 tenths faster?
If we see what we saw last week where they're just dominating the field, they'll be 3.5 to 1.
Yeah, but I highly doubt, because I feel like that one is so much more it's dictated towards so much more type of specialty driving, whereas
Sure.
Pocono, yes, it's a much more difficult track than people probably give it credit for, but it's also predicated on speed. And I think there's a lot of cars, a lot of garages that bring very similar speed to these guys. And if they take different lines, maybe they can, especially in qualifying. I mean, you see it with Alex Bowman every freaking year at Daytona. Like they just have a knack for finding that extra tenth. And I don't think you're going to see Truex or Denny, be 2 tenths faster than everybody else here.
Yeah, I'm jumping over both those guys and going with a Kyle myself, but I'm going to Kyle F. Busch. He's a guy that I like. I found that 7. I like 6. I don't know that I'm betting anything less than that, but he's just been dominant at Pocono. He's been really, really good. His car's been fast. Tyler Reddick's car, who Busch took over, is the car was really good here last year. I think there's a lot to like about Kyle Busch. I know this number is short. Obviously, look for 7s if you can find it. Go with a 6. And the one thing I will say, and to your point, Brian, this is a track where if you start near the back, you can still get to the front, much like a Talladega or an Atlanta. So don't be scared that if, this might be a good opportunity where maybe Truex or Busch or Larson or somebody doesn't qualify as well as we hoped. They're somewhere in the 20s. Then we get a nice little bump on their odds, and that's when you go in. So, but yeah, I think Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson are 2 guys that if they put their car near the front, in terms of qualifying, they'll be in that 4.5 to 5.5 range. Maybe even a little bit shorter if they're dominant. So if you like those 2 guys, I think at least grabbing a little bit of it now makes sense. And then you can always go back and add to it later after practice. Let's go to the next range, because I think this is where we're going to find a lot of value. We'll start with Trackhouse and Ross Chastain, who was getting a lot of love on the NASCAR betting preview, and I think for the right reasons. Obviously, Ross is somebody who's going to be a little polarizing this week because his recent form has not been as good, but he did get that win. He's now at a track where he was awesome last year. He was, where is he? He started 21st, ended up finishing 32nd. You think, wow, he wasn't that awesome. He was actually first after stage 2 and had a 3.6, like 9th best driver rating. I think he is a player this week. I think Trackhouse will be really strong as a team as a whole. And I've seen, there's 11s in market. I think there's still 12 at Bet Rivers. Like if you can get north of 10 to 1, I think that's a very, very good bet.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to bet Chastain right now.
Very valid. His recent run is just not worthy of excitement, especially at this number. But I forget who was talking about it. Like when he's priced at 7 to 1 and everyone's all excited about him, he has an average or below average day. But when he's north of that 10 to 1 number and nobody wants to bet him and everyone's kind of on the fence, like he was 23rd at New Hampshire, 35th at Atlanta, 22nd at Chicago, obviously got the win at Nashville, top 10 at Sonoma, and then it was 22nd at Gateway, 22nd at Charlotte. Like it hasn't been a good run for him. Even with that win, like he's been kind of below average pretty much across the board. But this is a horses for courses track. I think Trackhouse has the speed. I think this is a place where he's been really successful. And he's another guy that I think if he puts it on pole or anywhere near, double digits is gone.
Yeah, I definitely think double digits is gone, and he's definitely somebody to consider post qualifying. But for me, like I think his recent form and finishing results is making me reassess his qualifying lack thereof success at qualifying. Because when you look at his qualifying efforts at the extreme high-speed tracks this year of Atlanta, Talladega, and Daytona, they have not been very good. I know he put it inside the top 5 at Kansas, and at Las Vegas, I believe he was like 8th or something. But, I just don't see Chastain putting this anywhere near like the first couple of rows. And so I think this number might still be there post-qualifying, unless, of course, like you said, Trackhouse, has souped up the cars this weekend, and we see Chastain unload like we did at Auto Club. But for one, I'm not factoring in Auto Club at all because of temperature and just the weirdness of that race. I don't think it translates very well to this weekend, and I think the tire wear much different. But yeah, I think Chastain is a guy that anywhere under 10-1 right now, I'm definitely avoiding. And then I think there's a possibility you're getting this close to 11 or 10 post qualifying as well.
Yeah, and if you want to be patient, and you have pessimism like Brian, it's completely understandable. And you wait and you see what he does, and even if he puts it on pole and it's 8-1, you think he's really fast and looks really good, and obviously has the track history, then fire at that point. But I think if you can get 11 or 12, and you like Chastain, you think there's real possibilities there, I think you at least grab some of it and then figure it out later. Your guy Ryan Blaney is next, 9, 10, 11. Obviously a weird race for him last year. Started 6th, was 4th after stage 1, was 2nd after stage 2, had an accident and was basically out of the way, but had a strong race, looked really good. The Fords traditionally don't do very well here. And so it'll be interesting to see how they qualify, how they practice, and how their numbers move. But he is somebody that if I were gonna lead in any sort of direction towards the Fords, he would be top of my list.
So Ryan Blaney is the first guy that's going on my pre-practice qualifying outrights board, and of course, I'm gonna say this multiple times here. I could be completely in the wrong here, so do not take this for a matter of fact. But the Fords in 2023 seem to have practice and qualifying speed much better than they did at the high-speed tracks in 2022. So I feel like you're grabbing the number based on the legit possibility that Ford unloads extremely fast here at a track that Blaney has a decent amount of success at, mind you. And these guys like him, Logano, I mean, obviously I'm fade Logano all the time, but Blaney, like if he puts this anywhere inside the first 3 rows, say starting top 6, like he's going to be single digits. And I think it's for that factor, which is why I want to grab him now, because I do think if they do unload that fast, like we've seen at Las Vegas, like we saw at Kansas, like we've seen at every single drafting track this year where pedal to the metal, single lap speed was crucial to qualifying, I think this number drops. Now, do I have a full amount of success that this translates to a race win? Absolutely not with Ryan Blaney. But in terms of betting the market early in the week, like I want to get the value, and I do think there's a decent amount of value here.
You want to get the best of the number. You want to get a guy who's going to put it near the front and give you a legit chance to win. Maybe in stage 3 he does something stupid and knocks himself out, but at least you know, like, okay, I'm backing a driver who's been fast, who looks good, and has been right there a lot. So I don't fault you for going there. I won't be adding it, like I said. By the way. What's that?
12-1 at Bet Rivers.
Yeah, fire it up. The next guy on the list is going to be very interesting. I mean, we got some polarizing options. Do you trust the Fords? Do you trust the Watermelon Man? What about average ass Chase Elliott? This guy has not been the same this year, but this is a phenomenal track. Obviously, your returning champion needs to get a win to make sure he gets in the playoff. As long as 12-1, very interesting for a guy who, if if this race was in like February or March, his number is what, 6-1, 7-1.
Definitely,
So you're
yeah.
getting tremendous value. Obviously, if he qualifies well, that number is gone. So like there is potential there. He hasn't been that guy this year. Obviously, he was able to pull some rabbits out of his butt when he got 5th at Sonoma, 4th at Nashville, and 3rd at Chicago Street based on qualifying and flipping the field. But he's been kind of like a 10 to 15, 10 to 18 type car. And like if you want to bet him for a top 10, there's like some actually decent numbers for him and for his value. But as an outright option, I can't do it.
Yeah, Chase Elliott is like the anti-hero to Ross Chastain in terms of like good long odds. I mean, like you said, to lead off the outright board, Chastain, when he has longer odds, seems to perform extremely well. Chase Elliott almost seems to live up to those longer odds. I mean, when he's priced like that, the books are basically telling us like he's not gonna be driving well this weekend. So I don't know. I have zero interest in betting him.
Yep. If he's 6-1, Elliott's a factor. If he's 16-1, he's average car at best. But like I said, if he qualifies well, that number is moving. So if you like Elliott this week, grab some now because you will miss the best of the number if he performs the way you think he can. Let's talk about the rest of this kind of like 10 to 12 to 15 range, I guess. And I'll include. So we got Reddick at 11, 12 as long as 14. We got Chris Bell as long as 14. We got Joey Logano as long as 16. I mean, if we want to talk Fords, I think I might go. I know you hate him, but I might go Logano over Blaney. And I think he's a guy that if we're talking strategy and like thinking outside the box and kind of having some unique takes on this track, he makes a lot of sense. Him and his crew chief do really, really smart, wonderful things. I know he's kind of slimy and he gives you the heebie-jeebies, but at the end of the day, we're trying to cash tickets. We're not trying to be best friends with these guys. So 16-1, I think is a good number. And then Kevin Harvick rounds out kind of that range as long as 16-1. So from this range, is there anybody jumping out to you as potential values?
For whom the bell tolls. 14-1. We already talked about him and how good he was this past weekend in New Hampshire in terms of speed. And then when you look at, again, I'm going back to qualifying in 2023 at really high speed tracks and just overall performance at these things. He started 5th at the Daytona 500 and he finished 3rd there. He started inside the top 10 at the first Atlanta and he finished 3rd there. He started 6th at Talladega and finished 8th. He started, hold on, I'm going down the list here. Charlotte, he started 9th. Yeah, he had a bad race, so he wanted to finish 24th. But again, he put it inside the top 10. This last Atlanta, of course, he spun out during qualifying and he didn't perform that well, finishing 23rd. But when you look at pre-qualifying numbers and just how well he's actually driven at Pocono, he's led laps in each of the last 2 races here. He has 2 top 5 finishes. Last year's run was a top 4 finish in which he started 11th. The Toyotas of JGR last season, if people are going to take into account, 2022 and factor that in, were by all accounts the best garage at the track, with both Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch finishing 1st and 2nd and leading combined almost half the race. Like I don't see why Bell 14-1. This number is easily going to 10 or below if he just continues to qualify like he has been doing at Pocono in particular, where he started 11th, 4th, and 9th in each of the last 3 races.
Yeah, I'm adding him to the card as we speak. That he is somebody that makes a lot of sense. Was the fastest car in qualifying last week. Obviously, if he finishes that race, maybe it has a much, much better day. Had the issue, so obviously he did not, finish what he started. But that car was fast. Toyota's have been fast. Him and Truex have been the class of the field. You've mentioned his run of qualifying and performing really well. If he puts it near the front, like you said, that number is inside 10-1. I think if you can get 14 is or longer, I think, is worthwhile. Are you in at 11 if that's the best you
No.
can get access to? That's too short. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of why.
almost because I feel like unless he puts it on poll, I don't see him getting any shorter than maybe 8
No.
to 1. And kind of like we talked about, was it Truex last week? I know we were talking about somebody like you might as well just wait to see what they unload with, and then just hit the number there.
Yeah, I think if you can get 12 or better, which is wild to say 11, but and obviously your money, your bets, you can do whatever you want.
True.
But that's where our heads are at. Let's talk about the next range. Because I think there's some interesting targets. We have Bubba, 25 as long as 30. We have Daniel Suarez as long as 30. If you have a little love for Trackhouse, I think that's an interesting number. He puts that car anywhere near the top 5. That number is gone. Brad K, Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman. Obviously, you can see his numbers all over the place. So shop for that. But he is somebody, obviously, Hendrick Garage. Good run of success here. Is an interesting option as a longer shot, kind of, I don't want to say dart throw, but more of a lottery ticket than the guys near the front. Is there anybody from this range that's garnering interest from you?
I've bet 23-11 every single week for probably like 5 consecutive races. So this is not going to change.
Roth when he won an SVG when he won it.
Yeah. That's not going to change this week. But instead of Tyler Reddick, whose number is a little bit too short for me to begin the week, just with what he's been doing on Sundays, Bubba Wallace 30-1. When you talk about guys that excel at high speed tracks, I think Bubba is, he's in that group. Last week he kind of bucked the trend and told everybody that was fading him to eat a bag of dog poop. He's clearly good. It's just a matter of whether or not they can put a race together and get on the correct strategy here. And again, like, we're winding down the season, and the only way to guarantee yourself a potential win is the only way to guarantee yourself a playoff appearance is by getting a win. And I do think Pocono presents some unique opportunities to get on a different strategy than anyone else. And I think he's the type of driver in this correct situation that could take a little bit of risks. And so I'm going to play that 30-1 and hope he winds up qualifying well, which he's brought some decent speed at these high speed tracks.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you were talking 23-11. I got Trackhouse on the brain. SVG is back for the Indy Road Course.
That's right.
And I am adding some Daniel Suarez exposure to the outright card. Very small bet. I'll be more interested for top 10s, top 5s, but I am grabbing a little bit of the 30-1. I think he is somebody that makes some sense. Obviously got qualified inside the top 10, started 9th, got to 3rd pretty quickly. And was the 7th best driver rating last year at this track. So obviously stuff to like there. Also has been kind of okay, like 2nd at Atlanta, 12th at Nashville, 27th Chicago Street, but that is a completely different setup. He was average last week, started 12th, 16th finish, but 7th at Gateway, 7th at North Wilkesboro. Like, he's been in the mix. And I think he's somebody that, probably should have a win or two more than he has throughout his career at this point. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him get his nose near the front and give him a legit shot to make some noise this week. Beyond there, in terms of outrights, I don't think I'm going to bet anyone else. Is there any lottery tickets you want to throw out there before we move on to top 10s, top 5s, that kind of stuff?
I mean, if you want to throw like a disgusting outright, Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse, 150-1, like,
yeah,
I don't mind those. Again, like, obviously this races differently than a Daytona or Talladega, but guys that need to get off strategy, and who knows, maybe we get a late caution that throws the field for a loop, like we've seen at Atlanta a couple of times. So I don't mind throwing a couple of darts this week for small units.
Yep, I am with you. Mentioned to you before we recorded, but Kyle Busch is running at the trucks. It's kind of interesting. You can bet him to win both races. As I mentioned, I like Kyle Busch this week. 1650 to win both. Probably not quite good enough, but he's a big favorite in the truck race and highly priced for the outright market. So I think that could be fun. Let's look at future bets and look at top tens, and then we'll work our way. Obviously, once again back to more of a predictable race, so it's going to be hard to find some value, but there is some names that are presenting value. As I mentioned, Chase Elliott, top 10 at minus 140. It's a little juice heavy, but for a guy who's been as good as he has at this track and has that elite ceiling, I think it makes sense. Logano at minus 105 is calling my name. And I might have to sprinkle. Suarez at plus 140 is definitely going on the card. What names are jumping out to you?
It's going to be gross. You were on it last week, but Brad Keselowski plus 140 at Caesars. I don't know. I just worry about the number getting longer.
Yeah, I think
after
I wait.
Qualifying for somebody like him.
I just the Fords are I don't know. I don't.
So that's the thing. Like again, I'm going back to how well these guys, Ford in general, how well they've qualified at the high speed like drafting tracks and just the high speed tracks as a whole. Who knows what we're going to see this week, because we haven't seen a really comparable track at all this year, because Auto Club, the weather, we didn't get practice or qualifying. So we didn't get to see guys the way that they unloaded. They just raced on Sunday. And then I said it earlier in the show, like to me, 2023 and 2022 are almost polar opposites in the way the cars are driving. So I don't want to take too much away from that. Obviously you take away some, but Keselowski has a decent history here, but not necessarily qualifying.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I'm adding some Alex Bowman top 10. Also, I think he can qualify well enough to make that number shrink. I'm getting plus 160 at Caesars. Obviously, I'll shop it to see if that's the best of the number, but I think he is somebody that can perform well. Obviously, his teammates are expected to do well. If you want to get wild, there's some opportunity down here. Like you can get Priest at 5-1. You can get Eric Jones at 4-1. I think that's the way to attack some of the longer shots. To actually get some cash, or maybe even go up to top 5. We can do that real quick.
I will say, so Kevin Harvick's top 10 at Bet Rivers is currently under 140. I think it's minus 139. I think that's a good bet. I mean, when you talk about a shoe in the top 10 at almost every single track on the schedule, like Kevin Harvick is just that guy to Harvick his way into a top 10 finish.
Yeah, no, I think if you get minus 140 or better, I think that's fine. I think once you get, but he's just even as a minus 165, like that's a pretty nice number. And obviously, if you have the opportunity to parlay it with something, if you can do that, that might be a way to get some value. But yeah, that feels like one of the safest options for sure.
Yeah, and then honestly, I tweeted this out earlier, but the other top 10 guy that I'm really keeping my eye on this week is Eric Jones, who is 3-1 at our offshore. He's 3-1 at a couple places. He's 4-1 at Caesars. Like, I like the number, but I don't think I like it enough to bet it before practice and qualifying, because he has been absolute shit.
Yeah.
In terms of qualifying this year and in his career at Pocono, for what it's worth. So I don't think this number is going to get much shorter. I would much rather see him put it 16th, 17th, and then bet this at 250 than bet it now and have him have a dog crap car.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely with you on that. Like he worries me, and I could see him even being good for 2.5 stages, and then
exactly
stupid. So, it's probably going to be a pass, but I like where your head's at. Top 5, Eric Jones 10-1. I almost rather bet that, but if you want a little more of a lottery ticket. Bowman at 5-1, I think is fun. Suarez at 4.5-1, I think is fun. Logano at 2+225. I just trust Logano to put his car where it needs to be and be really smart with it, and which is wild because him and Blaney are very like different in terms of the way they finish. Like I think Blaney has a little more speed, but like always does something dumb, and Logano just always makes that right decision and
I
is
was just
always
gonna say,
cool.
yep. Logano works races better than Blaney, but Blaney always seems to have better equipment.
Yep.
Like if Logano was driving Blaney's equipment, he would probably be up front almost every single week.
It'd be fun to flip it for a week and see. All right, top Chevy. I mean, if you like Chase Elliott, I think 6-1 is kind of fun. Especially if you like the Toyotas to perform well. But it's, everything's probably priced accordingly. Top Toyota. I think Chris Bell at 5-1 as top Toyota is interesting, Brian.
So I'm already adding one Christopher Bell bet here. I'm going to go to the Bell top 5 number at 2-1 at Bet Rivers or Bet MGM. Actually, you can also get that there.
Okay.
Again, like I think there's a distinct possibility that he unloads as the fastest Toyota in practice and qualifying at this track, and then you see his numbers get much shorter.
Mm-hmm. I think Logano is the top Ford. I'm actually going to add that. Plus 325 is really, really fun. There might be a better number. But as always, shop it.
Gross.
But I don't think the Fords run amazing, and I think he's going to be the most consistent. So if I can get 325 on him to do that, I'm going to take a piece. All right, let's go to the matchups because that's where the fun starts and ends.
Ooh.
Gibbs is -110 versus Suarez -120. Red Dog and Blaney are even. Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell. We can get Bell at -110 versus average ass Chase Elliott. That's really tempting.
I don't know if I like that as good as over on BetMGM. I can get Bell at -105 versus Ross Chastain.
Oh, I'd much rather face Chase Elliott.
Okay, I hear you there.
What's Ross's number over there
for his outright?
No, for them in the matchup. What's the
-125?
I mean, we haven't had a show bet in a while. It's really interesting.
But I raise you. Hold on, Elliott versus Chastain. Who is safer?
I guess Chase.
Think about it. Even if Elliott has a mistake, he's probably going to finish around the top 10. Whereas Chastain, when he makes mistakes, they're like big mistakes.
Yeah.
And they cost him like greatly.
That's fair for sure. Logano -105 versus Harvick is interesting.
Oh God, they're doing the Bubba versus Keselowski matchup again.
They know how to get to you, Brian. I'm adding Logano versus Harvick. I think they're both solid, and I expect Logano to be right where he needs to be come end of the race, and that's all I need.
Where did you find the top Toyota numbers? Was that Caesars?
Yeah, they have it. Let's go. I can go back there real quick.
No, I got it. Yeah, 5.
Truex, Hamlin, Reddick, Bell, Bubba, and then Gibbs.
Yeah, I'm gonna bet the Bell bet here.
Yeah, I think it's a good number. Chastain versus Byron. Byron's been so good at this year at like the 1.5 2 miles. He's just been a monster everywhere. So it's hard to fade him, but I do like Chastain a lot, especially at plus money. I like Bowman over Buescher.
All right. Like I said, I'm tired of playing it safe, so I'm going to add Bell over Chastain. Of course, I'll probably regret this come Sunday, but
you sure will.
and I'm also going to add. Hold on, where did I see that? Over at Facebook, over at FanDuel, Bell over Elliott at minus 112.
At minus what?
112. You know, they're typical weird ass lines.
I like that. I should probably add that. You can get Blaney over Elliott at Bet Rivers, minus 118.
Again, like who's safer? I know Bell is not safe by any means either, but I just think obviously like I'm all in on Bell this week, so
yeah. That's probably fair. Suarez over Bubba. Give it to me.
Oh my gosh.
Danielson.
I do think if you like Chastain, I think the odds on him versus like a Byron or other Chevys.
Yeah. Our betting cards are getting way too aggressive, Brian. I
told you.
It seems crazy. See, and I can't like just let you go crazy and just keep myself reined in. Like I just have too much fun getting excited with you. So I gotta get some exposure.
Yeah, this is undoubtedly not going to end well.
No, it's gonna end fantastic. All right. Anything else you want to look at? Let's see. Verstappen to win and Byron to win 13-1. It doesn't feel that great.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Elliott, Suarez, or Gibbs to win at 7.5-1. That sucks.
That's garbage, especially before Suarez and Gibbs
top 5, 325. That's crap. All right. Anything else you want to look at, or should we recap the card, give the people the best bet, and get out of here?
Yeah, I got those. Let's see fastest qualifier numbers over at.
That's a good idea.
Caesars real quick. I want to look at that.
Truex, Hamlin. You know.
So I do think if people are really in on Trackhouse this weekend and they think they're going to unload fast, Suarez at 35-1.
Yeah.
To snag the pole, I think that's a pretty good shot.
Suarez is a good bet. I think your boy Christopher Bell at 12-1 is a good bet. Honestly, if you think Chase is gonna be fast, 12-1 for him is pretty good.
I think right off the bat, the reason why Elliott's number is so enticing is because when you look at the two other JGR guys they have at the top of the board, Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin, and you see how fast Bell was last weekend on the pole.
Yeah. Are you going to add any of these?
No, I kind of like the Bubba number at 25-1. He's started each of the last two races here at Pocono 7th, and he's been right around the top 10 for the last kind of couple of weeks at Oval. So I don't know. Qualifying bets are so hard.
Yeah. Very much. I think the bets that make sense of the 2 are the Trackhouse guys, and I think Chris Bell. That would be the ones I would go to if I were firing.
Yeah. And by the way, you can get go ahead.
I would say if you are betting qualifying, or if you have any bets that are jumping off the page to you, make sure you drop them down in the comments. Let us know. We'll wrap back around and check it out. Also, smash the thumbs up while you're there. And if you have not subscribed, please consider doing that. We are marching ever closer to 600, and that gets us closer to 750, which gets us closer to 1,000. So let's do it, people. Let's get it to by the end of the year. What were you going to say, Brian?
I don't even remember now.
Okay. Well, let's recap our cards. Let's give the people some thoughts, and let's get out of here. I'll minimize that. So I have 2 outrights. Actually, I have 3 outrights. I didn't add Kyle Busch because he's 6-1. I probably should, but I haven't yet. Chastain at 12, Bell at 14, Suarez at 30. I have Suarez the top 10 at 140, Bowman the top 10 at 160, Logano as the top 4 at 325. I have Logano over Harvick at minus 105, and Suarez over Bubba at minus 108. What do you got, Brian, and what is your best bet?
So I got 3 outrights right now. Christopher Bell at 14 over at DK. Blaney over at Bet Rivers is actually 13-1, and then Bubba at 30-1, just for almost a third of a unit there. And then top 5 market, I'm riding Christopher Bell here. Bell top Toyota, and then 2 Bell matchups, fading the Chevrolets apparently this week. Bell over Chastain, Bell over Elliott, and then a late ad, which is actually going to be my best bet for the race here. Kyle Larson over Kyle Busch. The fact that you're getting almost like even money for Kyle Larson to finish ahead of Kyle Busch is ridiculous to me, considering they're almost the same outright odds. And Larson, for what it's worth, has been unloading better than Busch at the higher speed tracks this season. So I'm going to smash this play. I'm actually going to go 3 units on this.
It sounds a lot like our Truex over Bell bet from last week, where the numbers were the same, the odds
they're very similar. Yeah.
But yet the head-to-heads were way off, so I don't hate it. So that is your best bet. Let's do that. And for my best bet, there's a few things I really like, but I'm going to go with Danielson to top 10. I feel like that's a solid bet. I feel like he'll be really good. I think he can put it obviously even better than that, but at plus 140, I think that's a good number. So I'm going to put 3 units on that and watch him get in the 11th or 12th probably, just to make me hate myself. But
no, he's probably going to be racing for the win and then get wrecked coming out of the last corner.
Yeah, for sure. By Brad K or his own teammate. That's Brian Twining. I'm Cal Robert. Make sure you smash the subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you let us know down in the comments your favorite bets, including an outright winner or a poll winner. We'll be back on Sunday morning to get you all set for the race. Get ready for the tricky triangle. We are looking good weather-wise. Knock on wood. Don't want to get too excited. But it will be nice to have back-to-back finishes of all 3 stages. Starting on time, finishing on time. Well, I guess we started a day late, so it doesn't really.
We got the entire race. Okay,
we get an entire race. So let's see if we can do it again. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.